Hello and welcome to Scouting Missions. This is the YouTube channel that is going to evaluate players, discuss their qualities, discuss their weaknesses, and really get a deep analysis of every player. I'm here with my good friend Caio, and we're going to discuss some of the Brazilian Premier League all-time best players, and we're going to do one of those tier lists. We're going to take a look at all of the Brazilian Premier League players from the last 20 or plus years or so. And we're going to categorize them into each of the tiers. So we have legend, which is only one player. Elite, which is top. Solid, these players just have to have had a very consistent career, consistently good career in the Premier League. Cuchero Pint, this category is going to be players that they seem like good guys and they seem like a decent player, but maybe not quite achieved what they'd hoped to in the Premier League. Go to rivals. This is a category where we're happy for them to go play for our rivals. And then visa denied is again limited to one player, and this player is banned and banished from the United Kingdom. The four criteria that we're looking for are talent, ability. So the player has to have this in abundance. Winner, are they a winner? Did they win titles for their team? Did they win games regularly for their team? All of those factors. And then a key player to the team. So how key were they to their team's success or even just the consistency of the team? And then, of course, last one is contributions. So this comes in the form of goals, assists, for goalkeepers, clean sheets, and able to win their team games with saves. So who's first, Caio? Is Alex?
Yeah, Alex will play for Chelsea, but yeah, I can only remember one screamer from a free kick, and that's the only thing I can recall. So I can't add anything here.
Okay, I actually feel like he was a pretty consistent member of Chelsea's defensive unit. Like him and John Terry had a reasonably good partnership. Probably not one of the best defenders we've ever seen in the Premier League. He had his consistency in a lot of occasions, but then again, I don't think he really had any truly standout attributes. So I would consider
solid. Oh, share a pint.
So actually, he won one Premier League and two FA Cups. So I think I would put him into solid.
And he was playing with Carvalho also again. So
yeah,
good competition inside the squad.
Phillipe Coutinho. No, there's Alisson. Excuse me.
Alisson. I feel this is polemic because, guys, I'm Brazilian. So as a Brazilian, I feel like there's a lot of criticism around Alisson Becker, because I don't know, he was with us for 2 World Cups. There are moments where he fails for Liverpool, and those stand out above all good performance that he had. He even scored a goal, not just a goal, a winner on the last minute. So I feel like that puts him right there on top. I mean, elite level. I wouldn't say he's a legend. He's the legend, but he's elite for me. But I don't know. I feel like the numbers in itself speak for themselves.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. I think he's elite. He has had some what we call in English clangers, but I think his overall contribution to Liverpool has been significant. If you remember before he arrived at Liverpool, Liverpool were weak defensively under Klopp. They were conceding a lot of bad goals. And as soon as Alisson came in, everything changed. And his distribution is quite good. It could be better. It's not as good as Ederson, but I do feel like he is an elite level goalkeeper. Phillipe Coutinho.
Because before we start the recording, I already had my name. But as we're going, I feel like I'm changing my mind a little bit. And let's see. But I want to hear it.
Okay. This one might be a little bit I'll get quite a few disagrees for this, but I think Phillipe Coutinho was a little underwhelming in a lot of aspects. He is undoubtedly an incredibly talented player. That's not even in doubt. However, I do feel like Liverpool got better when he left. I do feel like there were some moments where he just wasn't, he was on the periphery. He wasn't like central to everything. And I feel like whilst he scored a lot of exceptional goals and big goals, I don't think he was a player that you could really depend on every single game. The fact that Mane and Salah maybe even went up a level after Coutinho left, I would put him in the solid category for that reason.
I agree with you, especially with the argument that they got better after. Despite the fact that when he started playing, I felt like not just because of him, but Liverpool got better in general.
Yeah.
But again, not just because of him. I feel like the whole package was
That's
great.
true.
And coincidentally was when he arrived. But yeah, I would say solid. Reaching and almost climbing to elite, just because he had some great moments and some like not so great moments. BG, the big man. Uh, Mate, I have to go a little bit personal and forget a little bit about the criteria here, because I feel like when he plays for Brazil, he's not used in his best role. I would say position, but his best role. As for when he plays for Newcastle, the team improves. Even before, when he was playing for Lyon, the team improved a lot when he was playing.
Yeah.
But again, he is that one player who I feel like he missed the train, as we say in Brazil. He got to a point where he was going to be elite, and didn't quite get there. So I feel like he stayed in solid and a little bit below average inside the solid category.
Yeah. To be honest, I was thinking exactly the same, mate, because you wouldn't put him in the top range of talent. You'd put him in the range of an excellent midfielder who can drive his team, but
Yeah.
a lot of the categories that are there as well, he doesn't really meet them. For example, I don't know if he's a winner. We haven't seen that yet. I mean, okay, he's playing for Newcastle. It's difficult to give that to him. Contributions, I think, yeah, and I think he's a key player to the team as well. I think those two are undeniable. And talent, yeah, he's not in the range of Coutinho with his ability.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say between solid and could share a pint. Probably solid to be fair to him, because he's playing in a weaker team, and it's noticeable when he doesn't play for Newcastle, he raises their level. So I think that puts him in the solid category, I guess.
The next one is Matheus Cunha. Again, a little bit polemic, because we are debating their performance in the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna make some comments around Brazilian national squad, previous teams, and when we talk about Cunha before Watford, actually before the Wolves, sorry, he had maybe the best season of his career, with the numbers, but that's not at all comparable to any other strikers. I wouldn't buy him to my club. I wouldn't want him to play for my club. But his numbers for last season are okay. So
Yeah.
I would say I could share bind or go to my rivals. I don't know. I'm still making up my mind. What do you think?
I would put him in there, could share a pint with. I think he's a decent Premier League player, for a team like Wolves, for example, in the mid-table. I think he's that level. I think if he was to move to a bigger club, I think he would just be like a squad player, a player that occasionally gets games but doesn't really go up a level. Like you see some players can go up a level when they move to a big club. I don't know if he's got that. He was at Atletico Madrid. He didn't. I don't think
Yeah.
he did too well there. But like you said, we're not judging on that. Talent on his talent alone, I think he's a reasonably good goal scorer, but I don't think he's an elite goal scorer, and I don't think he's also got the quality in terms of the talent. So he's not a winner. I don't even really know if he's a key player to Wolves. I guess he probably is. I guess he's a functional player for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd put him in the right through the middle. Could share a pint.
Mate, the next one is gonna it. The next one has a place in my heart because I support Palmeiras here in Brazil. So I get emotional. I get emotional in not in a good way because I have an opinion that I only say it. I only say this on my chat group friend, on with my friends, and the reason is a very very polemic opinion. But for me, Gabriel Jesus should be either a left back or holding midfielder. That's it. He's not a striker. He said that before. That's not his best trait. So I think I agree with him, and I said that maybe 5 years ago. I feel like he's a left back. He puts too much effort to keep playing. He is a team player. He's his work rate is up there, but I feel like it's just it. He runs and runs and runs, and that's it.
Did you mean left winger or left back?
Left back.
Left back. Okay,
Left back.
that's extreme. Yeah, I think he's really not lived up to the promise that I felt when he was at Palmeiras, because I thought this was a kid who was going to be an elite goal scorer at least. And at Manchester City, he had his moments in the first 2 seasons, and it looked like he was just adapting. And from there, he was going to kick on and become like Aguero was for Manchester City. You could just rely on him for these things. But yeah, as soon as he said he didn't want to be a striker, that was a big warning sign, because a player like that should want to be a striker, because they don't want to fear the goal. They want to, like Richarlison's not the most talented player, but he wants to score. He wants to get in those positions. If Gabriel Jesus I thought he was a reasonably good goal scorer, but if he's not wanting to get into them situations, that's not good. That's not healthy, and that shows you that he's not brave. He's not got that desire to score, and I think that's let him down, because I think he's got elite movement. Like, his movement is superb, but you have to be able to score as well. And maybe those missed chances he had have messed with his head, and he's just not got the confidence to be a elite goal scorer.
Yeah,
So
and to put in context, when he arrived in Man City, and right before he went there, he was in the same level, as Endrick is right now, or
yeah,
was a few months ago. So there was an expectation around him, and I felt like that he had a good start before his first injury, and the injuries got to him throughout his whole career, bro. And again, I want to mention my opinion in the beginning, where I said he's supposed to be a left back or hold midfielder. I was just like exaggerating
okay,
to set an idea, to set a point, to state my opinion that he's not a striker. And I feel like there should be a moment where a manager should say, "Hey, man, let's change it up. Let's change our career a little bit, and let's try something new, some new things." And if you look at the criteria, he's not a winner. Definitely, he's not a winner.
no,
Amazing skills. He have always played for a great squad, but it's just not there. So I feel like he's a nice guy. I could share a pie with him.
Yeah, I agree. He's not a killer.
Okay,
Fernandinho,
this is tough. This one
yeah,
is tough
this one's very tough.
because straight away from his skills and the position he plays, you feel like he's just a solid player because he's not below that. He's definitely not below solid. Uh, but there's one thing. He was more than a squad player. He was a squad player, but he was more than that. He was a
Yeah,
leader. He was a captain. He was a player that even Guardiola mentioned that he was the most important player in the squad at the
yeah,
moment he was playing. So that tells something. That says that he's a little bit more than just what you see, you know. But again, for the criteria for the exercise of this video, I would say he's solid, but I'll put him here, first place of solid.
okay. I would put him in elite, and I would put him in elite because he, he's a winner.
Yeah,
He was key to Manchester City's team, as you mentioned. Key in the way that he kept the defensive structure together, and also the way that he was intelligent with the ball. So
yeah,
Fernandinho wasn't a player who did anything reckless. He wasn't a player that couldn't beat a press. He could, like, pretty much every time. And I felt like he's okay. Talent in the way that like Coutinho is, no. Talent in the
yeah.
way that he uses his brain, he uses his understanding of the game, his reading of situations. I thought he was elite. Contributions, yeah, goals, not really. He did come up with some big goals though.
Yeah,
But
key goals, key goals.
key goals, yeah. And I think his contributions in the way that what he did for the team, the things that the other team members weren't doing, was like discipline, to his position. I think like if you look through the Premier League era, you don't get many players better than how Fernandinho was for Manchester City. I don't think you get many better.
Mate, I'm gonna be honest. I'm thankful for your opinion because I wanted to put him in elite, but but I was afraid to be judged a little bit.
Oh man, you
So
gotta.
I feel good. I feel relief right now. So yeah, let's let's put where he belongs. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
A lot of Brazilians are gonna disagree with us, strongly disagree with us because of the World Cup, because
Okay.
of but again, that's we're talking about the player in the Premier League,
David Luiz.
David Luiz. I feel like with David Luiz, uh, we have to use the criteria very well because with being a Brazilian, there is a lot of emotions related to this guy.
Okay.
Again, the 7-1 with Germany in the World Cup, and that's not where judging. His mentality, I feel like he's not there on top, and
Hmm.
he always played for great teams, great squads, great clubs, and he was
Yeah.
always questionable. So maybe he's a nice guy, so we could share a pint, but I have to forget the emotional side, which would lead me to put him on go to rivals. But
Hmm.
I would say could share a pint with.
Okay. He's a really hard one to pinpoint accurately because he did actually have some exceptional games for Chelsea. Like
Yeah,
he won them games and he won the Champions League. He has got talent. I don't know if he's a key player to the team. Um, that's debatable, but probably he isn't. And he did contribute as well. So it does meet a lot of the criteria, but in another way, he was responsible for a lot of really bad performances.
yeah,
And his concentration would, or I don't know if it's his concentration or his positional awareness would just, or his mentality, it would just go.
The mentality, it always
Yeah.
gets to him. Always gets to him.
Yeah. So I think if we weren't talking about them things, I would actually put him in elite. But those factors drag him down because I think whilst he is a winner, he was also responsible for a really bad Chelsea team. I think 2 seasons they had 2 really bad campaigns, and he was present there.
Yeah.
So I would probably say between Solid and could share a pint because Solid, the whole purpose of Solid is like somebody who's quite steady and regular.
Yeah. Too
But
much ups and downs for him.
many
So
ups and downs. He's
yeah.
he's all over the place.
And let's not forget that there is the technical part, mentality, especially for players, physical. So again, the skills, technical skills, he's up there, especially for a defender. But I would say the mentality put him down. And there's a nice argument here because now he's playing for Flamengo. He's very experienced, getting older and older, and he still makes the same mistakes. So doesn't change. And yeah, I would say maybe he's a nice guy, and I would learn from him sharing a pint.
Yeah, I agree.
But the next one is Ederson, and I'll let you lead this one.
Ederson, I would have him in elite because I think he's got elite level distribution. And that's a big reason why Manchester City is so good with the ball was because he was. And then if you want to flip that, because he's a goalkeeper, so we need to focus on the key aspects of a goalkeeper as well. He's a top saver as well.
Yeah.
Pulls off some exceptional saves. I think he's won Manchester City games. I can't think of too many mistakes that he's made.
Couple. Yeah.
Can't really think of too many of them unless I just slip in my mind. I know there's probably been some instances where he's passing out from the back has probably led to a goal or two, but it's not like a regular theme with him. And with Ederson, he doesn't get a lot of criticism, or too much praise, because I think as a goalkeeper, I think it's a good sign, because if a goalkeeper's getting criticized, it means that they're letting in some soft goals. Like Alisson had a bit of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he doesn't get praised too much. So that's also a good sign because he's not facing a lot of bad moments. So I would say elite.
Yeah, but there's always this debate. Alisson and Ederson, there's always this debate. And I feel like if Alisson is there, Ederson is also there.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I think puts him here. Less champions that they won. I feel like he saved them last minute.
Yeah.
There was a goal and Inter couldn't score because of him. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's special. That's special. It puts him up there.
João Gomes.
Okay. Again, we are talking about Premier League moments, and I feel like this guy, it's really, really solid, despite being young, despite being there for not so long, and being a Brazilian after having Casemiro as the benchmark for the position and having a lot of great players for that position. He has a kind of like old school vibe for Brazilian holding midfielders. With his nickname is Pitbull, so that tells a lot. And being young, for the team he plays, for the club he plays, and the performances in the Premier League, I feel like he's very, very solid.
I would agree with that. I think he's a traditional modern day midfielder. He's like all action, can do everything. Very disciplined, very strong in tackling and using the ball well, and I think he's like a consistent performer for Wolves as well. Like he's a key player in their team because Wolves were expected to have a bad season,
but
they didn't. And that's largely because of him, because of what he brought to midfield. If you remember, they lost
No,
Ruben Neves and João Moutinho. They lost two.
João Gomes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when they lost them two, everybody said, "Ah, Wolves are screwed. They don't have any midfielders now." João Gomes just stepped up to the plate, and Wolves have been solid, I think. So yeah, I'd put him in the solid category, and I also think that he could play for a bigger team.
That's it. That was my additional comment, because I feel like he can step up a little bit if he
Yeah,
plays maybe for Newcastle, or I don't know, maybe Aston Villa, West Ham. I feel like he's gonna perform. Okay,
Juninho,
this
old
one
school.
is old school, old school. And for those who don't know, that Juninho played for in the Premier League, he played for Middlesbrough, and he played quite well. And if you ask a Middlesbrough supporter, I feel like they're gonna put there in elite.
They might.
And despite the results in that season, because I feel like they got
They got relegated, and then he had to leave because he couldn't go. And he did. I don't think he wanted to leave, but he couldn't play in the Championship or
yeah.
Division One as it was back then. Um, and yeah, this little Brazilian boy came to Middlesbrough, an old working town in the north of England, and despite all of the belief that this kid would struggle to adapt to life there, he didn't, and the fans absolutely adored him. And he was a superb player. So this is back in the day of like systems, before systems, excuse me, before when players need to be well drilled in a system. Juninho was just a magician. So
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult because on one hand, he was exciting, and when people wanted to watch Middlesbrough because they were exciting, but at the same time they had a defense that was not a good level at all, and we didn't have systems back then, so it was a bit of a mess. Um, so it's a bit unfair to knock him down too many pegs because he's not a winner. Because well, he has three of them. Talent, yes, totally.
Yes.
Key player to the team, more so than anyone else. Contributions, again, high up on
Yeah.
the list. So he could have dragged. He could have played for any team in the Premier League at that moment. I believe.
Yeah. It was a different league at that moment.
Yeah.
The pitch was different. The timing was different. Everything was different. But
Yeah.
yeah, he despite all that, he was way up there. So that's why I feel like elite is his place. And
Yeah.
should I put him there?
I would say solid and elite, but I'd probably put him in elite for the memory, for the nostalgia.
Anyone who's watching, if you want to mention a nice player that you remember quite well, gives you nostalgia, comment, and maybe we can talk about it later. Maybe, yeah. Maybe you can come up here and talk to us about that player, about the memories that you have. It'll be good. It'll be good. A nice debate. The next one also has a place of nostalgia in the hearts of Arsenal, and it's Gilberto Silva, who was there in 2002 with Brazil, winning our fifth World Cup, and after that he joined Arsenal. So I'm gonna start this one, because if anyone from Brazil, young or older, is listening to us right now, saying that he is elite, they'll think we're crazy.
Okay.
I wouldn't put him there. Me personally, I wouldn't put him there. I would say he's solid, but if we talk to Arsenal fans, they would say he's elite. That's my opinion. Looking as a Brazilian, looking from the outside, and maybe he's named as one of the best midfielders of the last seasons since the Premier League started, especially being just the Brazilians there. But if you talk to anybody from Arsenal, they'll say he's elite. For me, I at that moment I was really, really young. I was maybe 15 or something. I wasn't looking at football with the mind that I have right now, so I can't quite put my finger on it. but I would say he's really solid from what I can see now. Looking at the
Yeah.
highlights, older games.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'd probably say solid, but I think if Arsenal fans were to come on here and talk about him, they would probably put him in the elite bracket because they'd probably pick out things that we're not remembering or we just didn't see. So yeah, I'd say solid, but anyone can challenge that. Any Arsenal fan can challenge that, I think.
Yeah. An Arsenal player. Yeah,
Yes.
Ross. Um, I feel like their same arguments are here. If anyone from Brazil is listening to us right now, they would say, "You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy," because he's a very solid player. The numbers tell a story. The last season was amazing for him. Um, I feel like he's going to struggle a little bit with the arrival of the Italian defender, a 22-year-old Italian defender who was playing for Bologna, and he plays like Maldini. He used to play on the left side, was brought up to the central position, and he's going to come exactly to Gabriel's position. Um, but again, I feel like him and Saliba playing together for Arsenal last season was really good. The numbers tell a story, and they were the best defense on the league.
Yeah.
He played for an Arsenal team that was not as a winner as maybe Gilberto Silva's, but I would say he's solid. That's solid.
I would completely agree with that because, yeah, like I know that he had a couple of bad games for Brazil in the qualifiers, and it seemed that he was quite a weak defender. But in terms of the Premier League, he actually genuinely has been solid, like consistent 8 out of 10, pretty much every week. There probably has been some games where he's looked a bit more ropey, but I think you have to go by what you're seeing week in, week out, which is just like consistent performer. Lucas Moura.
Can you can you do this as a Tottenham fan?
I can. I can be. I believe I can be very subjective.
Okay.
So, yeah, Lucas came to Tottenham with a lot of well, he was the wonder kid from Sao Paulo, right? And then he went to Paris Saint-Germain. Probably didn't achieve as much as or look as good as we hoped. And then when he came to Tottenham, the first performance was like a bit electric because I think he maybe scored in his debut, but he had a goodish game, and we were expecting this player to be like, oh, this is the next level player that we needed. But Lucas never really did that. He was always having pretty standard games where he was not really affecting things too much. He would often run into traffic with the ball. He'd not really contribute to a fluid attack because he's a very individualistic player, Lucas. He likes to dribble and dribble and dribble. The Champions League semi-final puts him in like a legend status for Tottenham fans, right?
Yeah.
However, if you actually are to evaluate his whole period in the Premier League, let's just ignore the Champions League for a moment. Yeah, I feel like he just didn't live up to that expectation. His goal contributions they came in like, I'd say waves, like, oh, he scored 2, then he scored a hat-trick, and then he didn't score for like 10 games. He was in and out of the team. He was never like a regular because of his consistency. He just wasn't there. So yeah, I'd put Lucas down for could share a pint based on that.
I was afraid you're gonna say that because definitely for me, he is go-to rivals. He could go to he could go to any rival because he wouldn't make any difference there. So if I was a Tottenham fan, I wouldn't be afraid of him going to any other rivals. And again, the wages, there will be more wages to play for better or more, even more players. So again, we cannot agree more when we mention the Champions League semi-final performance, but when you take that out of the equation, below average. And I feel like he's one of those players who never achieved the potential. And it's frustrating a little bit as a Brazilian also, but yeah, there's no any more argument. Not a winner. Skills, I would say he's a little bit above average because he's too fast to get caught running. But all the rest is below average. So go to Rivals strongly.
I felt that he was a very frustrating player a lot of the time because he would get the ball in a position on a counter attack, for example, and you're thinking, excellent, okay, just go through the middle and then try to find a pass. And almost always he would run into the area that he shouldn't run into, and then the attack would just break down. We had a lot of moments like that. The reason why I put him in share a pint though is for two factors. One, because he's a really likable guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And two, because of the Champions League semi-final, but we aren't evaluating that. So I'll leave that one.
There's one of your arguments I can fight on because he doesn't drink. So he likes to mention his diet to everybody. He only eats the same thing for the last maybe 2 decades. And yeah, he's one of those guys. Being a fat guy, I'm not coming from that place, but again, you're a Tottenham fan. I'll let you lead on this one. You have the last call. So share a pint.
Yeah, I think if he was maybe not a player from my team, I would have said go to Rivals, but I can't see him in an Arsenal shirt or a Chelsea shirt. I can't. It would be sad to see him in one of those shirts.
You almost made me. I'm gonna do it, bro. Sorry. We're being too nice. We're being too nice.
Do me like this?
And your last argument made me do it. Sorry, it was your fault.
I'm gonna go to bed crying tonight.
Okay, so Ramires again for the younger generation. Ramires played for Chelsea. Actually played really well. A bit of ups and downs because he's one of those players. When I say I'm gonna put some quotes here because when I say ups and downs, you remember when you argued for Ederson? He was praised. He was praised in the right moments because of the great contribution for important goals, especially in the Champions League semi-final. But he was a little bit of a Fernandinho in the squad. He was an engine for the team and helped a lot. Being a box-to-box midfielder, but a little bit more on the defensive side, but with good quality on the offensive side. I feel like Brazilian players at that moment, and looking at myself, looking at football at that moment, I could not appreciate his football. I couldn't say, "Oh my God, I want Ramires playing for Brazil. I want Ramires playing for my team." But right now, I would say he was really solid. Right there, solid, good player, good career, and that's it.
I think the thing with Ramires as well is he did come up with like quite a lot of big contributions for Chelsea, like in key moments. So that goes towards winning mentality. I don't think he was the most talented. I think he was I wouldn't say standard, but I wouldn't also say that he was he didn't have the technical ability like Willian, for example.
Yeah.
But he was a different kind of player. He was more of a runner with the ball. Than a typical dribbler.
Up and down, a lot of stamina.
The things that he could do, he did really well. Like you just mentioned now. I think he affected games in transition very well. So yeah, I'd say solid. I think he was a very reliable player for Chelsea.
Reliable. Great word, man. Great word. Yeah. Joelinton.
Yeah.
There is a nice backstory for him. he was hired for Newcastle to play as a striker.
Yeah.
And let's say things didn't work out at first. So being a squad player, he said, okay, you want to use me here on maybe as a winger, maybe as a box to box midfielder, maybe as a holding midfielder, maybe as a 9.5, 10.5, whatever. I feel like he's a good player for the team, for Newcastle, being at the level that they are. I feel like he's one of the maybe 3 or 4 players that are indispensable for the club. And but on that list, he's the weakest. So I would say he's really good. He's solid, nice performances, had improvements in his career, but I would say that we are being too nice, and I would say we could share a pint with him.
Okay. I think I might agree with that on two, because you need to look at two sides to the story. Because the one is what you just mentioned about him being a striker. If you were to judge him as that player that they bought as a centre forward, he would go in visa denied, because he barely scored. He struggled a lot. He offered no effect, but he had like a redemption. This new, like you said, he adapted to the new role, and he's actually exceptional in that new role as well. He's not just a player who's contributing well. He's contributing very well. So he definitely goes between. If we didn't have the period before, I would say solid, but we do have the period before, so it probably just knocks him down a little bit. Although I don't know if that's been harsh, because it shows like a good mentality, right?
Good mentality, yeah. Ross, Tottenham player, played for English clubs before, and I really love to see all your scouting analysis right now talking about this guy, especially because he is in a moment that is really delicate.
Yeah.
Because of his, I would say, maybe psychological condition at the moment that is affecting his career. And despite that not being the factors on the metrics that we have, on the criteria that we have, maybe we should be a little bit merciful and analyze him differently, let's say.
Yeah, I think if you judge his time at Watford and Everton, he did really well. I don't think there was any feeling there that he was like an elite level player. I just feel like he was a good player to have in your team, a threat, and he came up with some big goals against Liverpool, in particular. So he's got that edge to his game. But yeah, since he's been at Tottenham, I wouldn't say he's been a letdown, because I think that would be harsh, because like you said, the mental frailties that he did have, he was going through something. Conte did not treat him good. He didn't treat him well at all. Like, he didn't let him get like some form going. He just gave him a couple of games to get out of the team again.
Yeah.
So he struggled for rhythm. Last season, he had a lot of injuries, but then he did have a streak as well where he was contributing goals like every game.
Yeah.
So he has got, I do think he's got what Gabriel Jesus lacks, and Gabriel Jesus has got what he lacks. So if you put them together, Brazil would have the number 9. But
Yeah.
but he doesn't have he people say he lacks a bit of technique. I can see that sometimes. He's not particularly quick. He's not a 1v1 specialist, but he has that desire to score, and he has that edge to his game, which makes him a bit of a killer.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you, mate. I would put him in the could share a pint, because I do believe that he's one of those players that you can do better than. I think you can sign a player that would be a bit more of an all-rounder. I know that Saudi Arabia a team in Saudi Arabia want to sign him, but he doesn't want to go. So Yeah, I'd put Kuchera Pint because I do like him as well. I like his attitude on the pitch. I like how he carries himself. But he's not been a solid player for Tottenham at least. So
Yeah. My only contribution to this player is that he's such a nice guy. That would be lovely to have a pint with him, and
yeah,
it will be a good moment. This player for me is so underappreciated in Brazil that I
okay.
don't understand. But I'll have it. I'll let you have it a go.
I would agree with that. From what I feel, I think he's genuinely underappreciated generally because I think Aston Villa are going to find out how much they're going to miss him because they've
Yeah,
let him go to Juventus and they've brought on Nana in. Douglas Luiz is a very intelligent player. His positional awareness is excellent. He contributes a lot in terms of the construction to the midfield.
yeah,
He was at Manchester City, wasn't he? He came through.
yeah,
I think he came through their youth academy maybe, but
yes.
that shows you that he's got a high level of technique. Um, yeah, I think he's a top midfielder. I'd put him in solid. I think there's some factors missing, like he's not a winner in the sense that he wins his team a lot of games.
They went to the Champions League being in Aston Villa, so I feel like
Okay,
that's more than you can achieve at that team.
true, yeah. So the level he's at, yeah, you could probably say. I think, like I said, I think Aston Villa are going to see what he contributed to when this season comes. Yeah, key player to the team, absolutely. Contributions, yeah. Talent, okay, again, not elite level talent, but exception, still excellent.
Yeah.
Uh, and the winner, yeah, I would put solid, but I have a feeling you want to put him higher.
No, no, I would put solid, and I think that's fair. I think that's very, very fair. But I would just add that the numbers without him are so much lower. And also, when he changed from 5 to 8, from a holding midfielder to maybe a more constructive kind of player, his
Yeah,
long range passes created so many goals for them that I don't see they finding a replacement for them so soon, any soon. So yeah, as you
mhm,
said, wisely, they're gonna cry a lot this season, and I feel like we can also add some comment here that it was a move, a financial move. They sold him before the close up of the season, so they added that 70, 80 million to the summary of the season, so they could
yeah,
buy the player again for almost the same price, but in the next season. So that was an accountability loophole that helped them move, and I feel like it's not going to pay out. But
yeah,
let's wait and see. But again, he has that kind of like old school number 10 from Brazil that has that he's not a number 10, but he has that vibe. He has
yeah.
that he plays always looking up, always looking ahead, find those
Mhm,
spots, find the spaces, and has a great passing ability. And
yeah.
for me, he is elite. But he's again for everything that we can talk about, we're gonna put him on solid. Okay, so Murillo, Nottingham
Murillo,
Forest
I love this. Um,
midfielder.
I first saw him for Corinthians under 20s. He stood out immediately. He stood out,
Yeah,
and then I went a couple of weeks later to watch Corinthians under 20s again, and again same thing, same level, same consistency. Just destroyed everything around him. So I knew that this was a player that was. I actually, in my mind, when I watched him, I immediately thought Paris Saint-Germain will sign him. Obviously, they didn't. Nottingham Forest came in, and I think that might be an oversight on a lot of other teams because I think Murillo is going to go for a lot of money in the future.
yeah,
He had very solid first season in Premier League.
yeah.
The coach almost threw him straight in. I think he was there like 2, 3 weeks, and then he decided, no, I'm going to play this kid. And then every single week, solid, consistent performances. He still has to adapt to some things, like some defensive aspects, but he has the tools and he has the physicality. He's not the tallest, but you don't have to be in modern football, I don't feel. So I think he could go to elite level in the future. Now I put him in solid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I would say that your best comment was it was an oversight for bigger clubs because, again, I feel like maybe this season he could go to a bigger club already. I don't know. I feel like it contributed a lot to his progress. And let's wait. The window is not closed yet. It's far from closed. We know what happens in the last week. So maybe. I'm a Palmeiras supporter, a Palmeiras fan, and he's coming from Corinthians. It doesn't affect my judgment anyway. I feel like he's great and he's going to do great. And I feel like he's one of those names for the future, even more than the one that went to Paris Saint-Germain, Beraldo, whatever. I don't understand why he went and he got called and not Gabriel Murillo. But again, let's wait and see. And I guess we're gonna be right in the future. A Corinthians player that had two campaigns in the Premier League, very different ones, but he's again, how are we gonna do it? Just Fulham, just Chelsea, both? What do you think?
Remember Arsenal as well, remember?
Arsenal, yes. True.
So
yeah, okay.
I think you need to put it all in.
Yeah.
You need to put it all together. I would say Chelsea was solid. I wouldn't say it as elite. He did score a lot of good goals for Chelsea, but he also had a lot of games where he wasn't. He had that season under Conte, I think. It was under Conte, I think. One season under Mourinho, one season under Conte where he was very good. But then he had some other seasons where he was like David Luiz. He was not so consistent. And I felt that with Willian, it was always like, oh, okay, is this player going to move into like the elite category? And he never really did. His period at Arsenal was a disaster. They didn't like him at all. But his form with Fulham has been pretty good. I think he's been a good player for them. I think he's been consistent at the age. So I would say solid.
I forgot about Arsenal. So it changed my mind a little bit. I would go for solid because there was a moment for Chelsea. He was probably the go-to player. He was probably the best player in that squad. Maybe Hazard had just, maybe he was just gone to Madrid. I can't remember, but yeah, I feel like he was like the best player for them. It was not a good moment for the club, but that tells a lot about the club and not him. So yeah, I would say could share a pint. Because okay, Fulham, he's older. The expectation is low. The results and the reality is low.
Yeah.
For Arsenal, worse than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And being a little bit above average for Chelsea. Actually, not a little bit. A bit above average for Chelsea. I feel like we could share a pint with and be very fair with him.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment in terms of his overall contributions in the league.
Yeah, but I wanna take a look at his last season for Chelsea, the numbers for the last season for Chelsea, and I want to see what happened there because I can't recall actually. So, Ross, we're getting to the final. We're getting to the final stages of this amazing exercise. to my memory, to my fond memories of Juninho, for example, of Gilberto Silva, for example. Coutinho, we can say that is already a memory for the Premier League. And now we are going to talk about a player who is currently playing for a club in the Premier League. Very polemic topic because, again, as we said in the beginning of the video, we're not judging the player. We're judging the moment that the player is playing for the actual club in the Premier League, or had played for a club, or played for a club in the Premier League before. And I'll go straight to my result, which is visa denied for this guy. I don't want to go further than that, and I don't want to say why, because I think there's no need to it, and that's enough argument for that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he has to be there just because of his overall financial cost, the expectation. He's hardly brought anything in terms of contributions. Yeah, he just completely flattered to failed to bring anything, I think, which is a shame because you don't want a player. Yeah. It's hard for a player when they are in that category. But I think, unfortunately, you can't frame it any other way. I think it would be...
It's a shame. It's a shame. It's really a shame because he's so young. He's still young. He still can change.
How old is he? Like 23? 24?
Maybe 23, 24 now. And the thing is, being young and having the mentality to be an elite player, or to at least be in the levels of being the same room as an elite player, you should say, man, I'm doing something wrong. The problem is with me, and I should do something. And that's my main argument. And I don't want to go any further because I don't want to be any more polemic than we already have been. Let's move to the next one. The next one is interesting. And I would say he is for Liverpool. I'll leave to it. I'll leave you to it. But I'll say my only contribution is, in my opinion, for Liverpool, he's in the same level of being loved by the supporters as Gilberto Silva. Is a player that is underappreciated for Brazilian fan base. We don't understand why he is loved, why Europe clubs love him so much, and that's it.
I would agree. I was like considering elite, but I don't think we can put him quite in elite. I think Fabinho was a superb player for Liverpool. He actually had one season where he was a massive cog in the team because he was controlling from the middle, but he really helped their defensive solidity. The problem with Fabinho is he went downhill very fast, incredibly quickly. It was like his legs had just gone, like with a flick of a finger. So, yeah, I think longevity, if you consider that to Fernandinho, similar position. Fernandinho's longevity was superb. He was going for right up until I think he was 33, 34 when he left Manchester City. Whereas Fabinho was what, 31, 32 when he left?
Yes.
And in the last 2 years, you could see his legs had gone. I remember watching one game where the ball was moving around him and he just couldn't get close to it. So I would have put him in elite if he'd have kept his level going for higher. The other thing as well is Liverpool had a lot of midfielders and they could just switch them in and out and the cog would still work. Whereas Fernandinho, when he was missing before Rodri, when he was missing, Manchester City noticed it. I don't think you could really say that about Fabinho. He obviously had some wonderful qualities, but I think he'd be solid for me.
Yeah, there was a moment where Fabinho maybe got injured. I can't remember. I can't recall, but there was a moment where he didn't play for 10 games, and Liverpool only won one of those 10 games.
Okay.
So, again, that's just 10 games. I'm not saying that because of those 10 games, he was elite. I I feel like a lot of people could say he is elite. He was elite for a season or maybe
Yeah,
a season and a half.
yeah,
But yeah, because of that, I would put him on solid because of the whole contribution that he gave to a very elite club.
yeah.
Liverpool was up there with Madrid, with Barcelona, with maybe Man City. So again, that tells a lot about the player. Next one, Roberto Firmino. What do you think about this player, Ross?
I really like Firmino. Yeah, I think he when he came to Liverpool, there wasn't too much expectation, and I think under Brendan Rodgers, he was okay. He wasn't uh particularly outstanding. He had his moments, but I think under Klopp, he was like pivotal for a
Yeah,
good number of years. I would put him in elite because I think if we go to the criteria, he's a talented player in his own right. Not a 1v1 specialist, but he was just talented in and around the penalty area. Contributions, winner, he won everything. And he was a key player. Like in that
yeah,
front three, Mane, Salah, and Firmino. Firmino was the one who made the movements for Salah and
yeah,
Mane,
yes,
and he also contributed as well. He wasn't just like a cog that would move and didn't really
yeah.
score. He did both. So I think he was a elite player for Liverpool. I really do.
Couldn't agree more. Just to come back to Coutinho a little bit, more than Coutinho, he made things gel.
Yeah, yeah.
He made
He was.
things gel a lot more because he was the striker for the trio, but he was not a striker for the club for football. But he was man, the number of assistances, the number of flare passes with the back heel, with turning around and flipping the ball, whatever. He was
Mhm.
amazing, amazing. But
Yeah,
again, it's one of those players that when we look from the national squad perspective, from Brazil perspective, we don't understand why he is that appreciated by a Liverpool fan base, the Liverpool fan base. But again, if you watch his games, the highlights, if you watch the whole thing, I feel like there's apart from maybe the last 10 months for his career in Liverpool, uh, you're gonna see an elite player playing for them, and that's
yeah.
why he belongs here. And Ross, to finish, when we started, you said that we had only two rules. On the visa denied, we could only have one player. On the legend, we could have only one player. And we reached that moment that I feel everything is gonna fit perfectly because from the start, I felt like even before we decided who were the players you're gonna add to the list, I
Hmm.
already had a name. I
Okay.
already had a name. And coincidentally, we forgot about him, and he was the last on the list because we forgot about him. And I want to make my case by stating that we don't need many more words to say that he is the legend among these players. And I want to see you disagree with that, but I want to know why you disagree because I feel like you're not gonna put him there, and I
Hmm.
want to know why. Please.
Sure. Okay. I think if you're talking about uh Brazilian Thiago Silva over his career, Thiago Silva, yeah, I would put him in this bracket because I think I think he was a phenomenal defender. However, yes, he won the Champions League with Chelsea. However, I don't think he was at his best. That's one reason. But the second reason, the more important factor here is when I think of a legend, I'm talking about all-time Premier League greats. I don't think
Okay.
Brazil have got a player that fits that
No.
So that's why he doesn't reach legend status for me. Legend in his own right, because I love Thiago Silva. I think he's a phenomenal defender. I think he'll go down as one of Brazil's best defenders. Oh, I know at the moment maybe people might not see it
Yeah.
that way. I think in time it will, because he's a classy player. He did have a lot of exceptional games for Chelsea, but he also had some games where he wasn't. Some of the goals were his fault, and also I think some of the
Yeah.
performances. And when things were crumbling around him, he was unable to kind of like hold it together. He is a leader, but I just excuse me, I just think he wasn't at his best. He wasn't playing for a Chelsea team that were at the top level, and I don't think he can go in the all-time Premier League legends. And that for me means legend status. And I
Okay.
don't think Brazil has a player yet to fit
I'm
this.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna agree with you, but I would like to add, I'm gonna hit you while falling because I want to say he was 39. That's it. He was 39, and I'm
True.
falling here because of your arguments, and I agree. But I'm gonna just a little bit on the chin, so you
Get
can
one in.
feel a little bit about it. But he
Get one
was
in before you run out
39.
of that. It's true. It's true, but
It
I
doesn't.
don't
Yeah, it doesn't justify. I understand. I understand. I
think he
understand.
quite gets there. If he like being responsible for a Premier League title and a Champions League title in the same season, and Chelsea like didn't concede a lot of goals and he put in lots of elite performances, yeah, you could probably put him there, and Chelsea fans probably would do as well. But if you think about legends of Premier League, think Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer,
Yeah.
um, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, and Thiago Silva just didn't hit those levels, and neither did any other Brazilian player, unfortunately. I hope soon we have a player who can reach that. Maybe Stevao will be that guy.
Mm, not for Chelsea. If he leaves, maybe. So just before we finish the argument, I just want to put him somewhere. You say solid,
Elite.
elite?
Yeah.
Okay. So Thiago Silva is an elite, and your argument for Brazilian players not being the one of the legends for the Premier League, I completely agree. And I don't think it will ever be a Brazilian player for the
No.
no, I don't think the games are compatible. And if it happens, it will be to maybe a defender or a holding midfielder,
Okay.
not an attacker. I feel like we don't match that much. Brazilian style and the English football. I only add that among these players that we have selected, he is the one. And
Oh,
I agree with you. But let's say you didn't know my opinion. Which of these players would you put on the legend because they are among these players?
that's a really, really, really tough one. Um, I go between Fernandinho.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're not talking about um
Forget the criteria. Forget the
yeah.
criteria.
I know we're not talking about a player who's super talented, goal scorer, 1v1 specialist. I know we're not talking about those things, but I just think his level of his role, he was up. He's like alongside the best we've seen in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And in terms of talent, I'd say Juninho. And because of the nostalgia effect again, like it's the story behind him. I think that is what attaches me to say that. You could probably put one of the goalkeepers. I think in time, Alisson and Ederson will, one of them, or maybe
Yeah.
even both of them, will go down as like one of the best Premier
Perfect.
League goalkeepers we've ever had. So you could probably put those in there. Firmino, not quite. Um,
No.
I think he would have needed a little bit more to have reached that level. So yeah, I'd go with one of those 4, 3.
Great. Great. So that says a lot about our choices. I feel like the league players that we chose are correct, and I feel like we made some good decisions here. I feel like maybe Lucas, for you, it's debatable.
Yeah, I would
But I feel
definitely.
like we have in every level we have a player that could fit. And you have arguments to make a case. And again, my name is Kyle. This is my friend Ross. And if you have any comments, something that you disagree with us or that you agree, or any suggestions for next videos, for the next videos that you like to add, just let us know on the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everybody to say, hey, look at these guys saying that saying shit about Brazilian players for playing for the Premier League. And that's it. Ross, anything to add, man?
No, just like you said, please offer your comment, challenge what you've heard today. If you don't believe we're right with our assessments, tell us. And are we forgetting any players? There's loads of Brazilians who were missing, but
Yeah.
maybe they weren't good enough to be on the criteria. Maybe they were. Just let us know.
Yeah. And if you want to be one of our videos, just also let us know. It would be a nice touch. And that's it. See you next time.
See you next time.